Welcome back to Jewish Uncensored. Today we have a clip from Jordan Peterson from earlier this year on his message to Muslims, just in response to a lot of the issues afflicting their communities in the Islamic world, in the Middle East and in the West. Basically, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you what you're up to. You're going to see the friends of the pro-Palestinian movement, how they all happen to be left-leaning and what they're all about. And let's see what he has to say.
In what guise would you cloak yourself? If you were the least bit treacherously wise, you would adopt a religious cover. How better to camouflage yourself than in the robes of all that is traditional, just, merciful, and ethical? Ask yourself this, too. How else are you to explain the staggeringly incomprehensible spectacle of, for example, Queers for Palestine? Perhaps the most egregious example of the union of the desire by progressives to tear down everything in the West that is worthy, even at the cost of formulating an alliance that would in an instant be suicidal if it ever made itself manifest. And for those Muslims thinking that it's the evil Jews trademark registered, is Iran your idea of a worthy Islamic state? The very Iran whose citizens, Muslims all, have been on the brink of revolution against their psychopathic masters for more than a year and dreaming about it for much longer than that. The very Iran whose hypothetically religious leaders have to oppress their own women because that's the only way they can control those uppity sufficiently to have a go at them. Muslims, ask yourself this. Who in the West has allied themselves with the hypothetical cause of the oppressed Palestinians in the days since the Hamas invasion? University students, demented by the same idiot left radical professors who have destroyed academia. The former president of Harvard University itself, Lawrence Summers, said as much last week. Who else? Marxists, whose hatred for Islam exceeds anything that the most committed, parochial, fundamentalist Christian or Jew might muster. Remind me, once more, what is it that's the opiate of the masses, Muslims? What is regarded as the essential and absolute enemy of the communist utopia? Nothing but the very religious practice you share with your Abrahamic brothers. Who else? Bringing up the rear. The increasingly delusional Alphabet Brigade, the LGBT2s, SLQQ, etc. community, foolish and blind enough to assume that commonality of hypothetical oppression is enough to unite it somehow with the mullahs of Tehran and the gangsters of Hamas. Dark tetrad types all, who would have their blue and pink heads on a pike in the street in a moment if they were only granted the opportunity. Useful idiots. This is useful idiocy on a scale undreamed of by the most extreme of Leninists and Maoists alike. And what of Israel as an oppressor state? Well, the Palestinians who live in Israel proper are certainly a lot better off by any standard than the Palestinians who live in Gaza, despite the fortune that has been sent to that blighted area, all of which, for all intents and purposes, has been funneled into the secret and not so secret bank accounts of the dark tetrad religious leaders who parade their lying virtues so successfully. Tell me this, honestly, angry Muslims, desirous of genuinely practicing your faith. Do you really think you have anything in common with those who have aligned themselves with you in the West in the past week? Are those the brave and forthright comrades in arms whose support lends credence to the eternal and endlessly manipulable Muslim against Jew story? And tell me again how that alliance is better for your faith and your people than recognition of your Abrahamic commonality with the Christians and present-day descendants of the ancient Hebrews. And tell me, too, how the decentralized structure of your religion, admirable in so many regards, protects it against capture under situations of duress by the bloody psychopaths who make of faith nothing but a front for criminal evil. I'm not saying we're any better in the West. Our susceptibility to the blandishments of the postmodern Marxist dark tetrad mob is a weakness of equivalent danger. But it's your people taking central stage right now, and your people who have to make a wise decision. or else, and it's a big or else. The Saudis and the other signees of the Abraham Accords have a stark choice in front of them, as do the distributed and various people of the Islamic world. They and you can allow the thugs, particularly those in Iran and Palestine, to triumph in their propagandistic efforts to prop up their own dismal, miserable, and tyrannical states. They and you can, in consequence, scuttle the new peace treaty signed with Israel, forego all the obvious benefits for the Muslim world offered by that agreement, and to acquiesce to continued rule by the cruelest of hypocrites, misusing faith in the worst possible of ways. What is the famed second commandment of Moses? Do not use God's name in vain. What does that mean? It does not mean do not swear, or if it does, that is its most trivial warning. It means much more fundamentally, do not attribute to yourself the virtue of the divine when acting on your own behalf, let alone when acting in the thrall of the forces of darkness themselves. This sentiment is reinforced at least 3 times by Christ himself in the Gospels. The Saudis, and you in the Muslim world more generally, could instead remove the beam from your eyes, as we should equally in the West. See what is so starkly manifesting itself in the world. Turn away from the terrible, tempting path of righteous destruction. Continue the work already begun in uniting the people of the book, and thereby bring a productive, generous, wise, and lasting peace to this benighted, but still not yet doomed, and even potentially wonderful green and blue orb. We need a transcendental axis to revolve around, to move us beyond a blinkered materialism, to protect us against a foolish populism, and to lift up our eyes to the eternal heaven beckoning above us. In the West, we have that. For all the faults of the followers of the creeds, and even with the creeds themselves as currently understood in the form of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. We need our Abrahamic faith, lest the hedonistic pagans and worse prevail, and we need to stand united behind it. And that is why I'm pro-Muslim, but anti-thug. And if you are a true follower of Allah, that is the decision that is incumbent upon you in equal measure. And that goes as well for the Christians and the Jews.
There you have it. One of his soliloquies that we have there. I love his that ability to send a message out and just write all his ideas in a very poetic yet analytical method. Definitely recommend watching the entire clip. He has it's probably about like 30 minutes, but this is just a segment of that. And again, we have here in a world, especially today, that is increasingly pointing the fingers more and more at Israel. But as you see, as you look at the supporters of all these pro-Palestinians, you'll see a lot of this is just a veil of righteousness, just so they can put up a facade that we're supporting the oppressed and the downtrodden, when in their own countries they're committing terrible atrocities against their own people, which are very seldom brought to justice. And obviously, most famously is in Syria, that just had its own toppling there with its government, and all the horrors are just keep unfolding there. Then next we have Yemen, who all of a sudden, it's funny, on X and all these social media, all these like pro-Palestinians are like, oh, we stand with Yemen. They're fighting against the superpower of America, and the Yemenites keep claiming that they're hitting American ships and hitting their targets when they send rockets at Israel, which is no evidence for that at all. Nothing. Life's going on as normal in Israel, but Yemen, for example, has been in a civil war for over a decade, and according to UN statistics, again, hundreds of thousands of people killed by their own people. So again, you're looking at, these are the people who are supporting Palestine, people who don't have their own ship in order, and along with them, obviously, Lebanon, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, as Jordan Peterson mentioned, and where their largest export is terrorism and rockets. So again, and if you want to add the list, you can keep going with Russia and all these people who have all these anti-capitalistic tendencies, LGBTQ. You've got quite the salad of individuals who are only brought together because of their hatred for a united cause. And just to end off is that it's a scary thing to keep in mind, but here in North America and America and in Israel as well, we see there's a big divide in the people politically, where it seems like almost like half the nation is on the right side and half is on the left. And we're seeing so much of this struggle over spilling into protests and violent riots and all these kind of things, burning Teslas in America. I think we really have to be aware of that and take that to heart. It's scary because just to give an example of a dam, if a dam has a small crack in it, once the water seeps through, it's very hard to fix it up and not let the water rush through, because the dam is basically compromised once a little bit of water gets through. So too, we have a lot of this political friction between ourselves in America and in Israel. I pray that we're able to get that under control and take a deeper look at what's our path forward. And there's more online today than ever. So hopefully we can keep that in mind when we're engaging with other people who are not on the same political spectrum as us. But again, we have to make our future much stronger than just those immediate frictions. So this is Snir Yair with Jewish Uncensored. Please like and subscribe, and stay posted for more updates coming soon.